Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is the next mock interview on this channel, and today I have got a candidate named Shubham. Shubham is having an experience of approximately 2 years in RPA UiPath and wanted to have a mock interview with myself. For those of you who are looking for the mock interviews for the first time, in the mock interview, the candidate shares me the resume. We take a mock interview based on the skills, the project, and the expertise which the candidate has mentioned. At the end of the mock interview, I will provide the feedback that how was the overall interview, what are the topics the aspirant need to gain upon, and some of the reference material where he can study and improve upon. All the confidential information including the name, the company information, the project information are excluded from the project and that are not shared to anyone. As an audience, when you are watching this mock interview, you would find a question number associated to each of the questions. In case you are aware of the answer or you have some different thoughts on the answer, you can always drop the same in the comment box and I shall revert you as soon as possible. Looking for such a mock interview and a live conversation with me? All you have to do is just drop me a note on the email ID which is mentioned in the description and I shall reach back to you. We can also have the same mock interview. In terms of cost, these mock interviews are absolutely free and are not charged at all. In case you are looking for a mock interview of a different experience, you can always watch the complete playlist. There are 10 other mock interviews which are available on the channel at this point. So I hope you can find one matching your expertise. Lastly, in case you are coming to the channel for the first time and haven't already subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing to the channel to get the latest updates. Having said that, let's get started. Hi Shubham.
Hi, sir.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
I'm also good. So, Shubham, I have received your resume for the mock interview and it is in front of me. So, what we are going to do today, that first I will take your mock interview. This interview is not for any job opportunity or any of the company. This is just for our training purposes. So, how we are going to structure is I'm going to go through your resume. I will ask you some question from RPA, robotics, UiPath basis, and at the end whatever questions and you are not able to answer the correctly, so I'll tell you what have you answered wrong and what are the things that you need to improve. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so let's get started. So can you please introduce yourself and how many years of experience you have, what is all and all those things?
So, my name is Subham. I am working as a RPA developer on UiPath tool, and I have 2 years of experience in RPA.
Okay. And how many projects have you automated till now?
I have worked on 4 to 5 projects till now. Yeah, currently I am working on a project of university.
Okay, so you have done 4 to 5 projects, and what is the status of the projects? So is it on live? What is it?
Yeah, these all projects are live.
Okay, so all projects are live. And when you say about the technology, so I understand that you are having an exposure in UiPath. Apart from UiPath, what other technologies are you aware of?
I have worked with SQL.
Okay. Okay, SQL, UiPath. Okay. Okay, yeah. So I see certain projects in your resume, and I see that you have done the advanced certification from UiPath as well, and you have an understanding of automation anywhere also. Okay, so
yeah,
Shubham, I want you to talk about any of the project which you are comfortable talking about. Okay, just talk through that. What was the problem statement? What was the automation all about? What is the automation? Any one of the automation that you have built and is deployed on production. Anyone which you are comfortable talking about.
Okay, so I will, like currently I am working on a MIS report verification project.
Okay.
So this project is what we are working, the problem statement is the tester team used to collect all the, like, this is the university where we download the MIS report. There are multiple college affiliate with this university.
Okay.
And so tester team used to download one by one MIS report for all the colleges and then extract data of like available student for like, appear student for exam, and how much student are fail in exam and how much student are pass in exam. Then they match the data from SQL, like internal database. So I automate this problem where my bot is download all the MIS files from the university website and then extract data particular for all the colleges one by one. And I integrate this project with SQL as well. So we fetch the data. First, we fetch the data from MIS report by PDF automation. Then we integrate the UiPath with SQL. So we fetch same data from internal database SQL. Then we match the data and generate the report. How like sometime what happened in MIS report, data is come in wrong numbers, like the number of pass students are 100 in MIS report, but in real, when we check in internal database, their number of students are 80. So we match the data and generate a report and send the report to the admin.
Okay, perfect. So if I understand it correctly, you have a website which is having certain colleges, university details. Your bot extract the data, it downloads the data, compare it with some report which is in SQL, and any kind of discrepancies are reported in a form of report, right? Okay, so
yeah, it's a university website.
Okay, and is this robot attended or an unattended?
Attended robot.
It's an attended robot. Okay. So that means it is developed and deployed on the user's machines. Okay. Now, when you say you are extracting the data, so what kind of data are you extracting? Is it structured or unstructured? So do you understand structured and unstructured data?
Yeah, it's a structured data.
Okay.
So there are a fixed format for all the data, all the PDF files, and the PDF format is native.
Okay, so those PDFs are getting stored in some kind of folder, right? So now when you say that this is an attended automation, so different user will have different folders, right? So let's say Mukesh is one user. I have C:D::E:. Shubham is having FGH. So how would the robot know that where I have to store the files, the PDF files?
No, when client run the bot, so bot asks to client for which college you want to download the files, like MIS reports.
Okay. Okay. So that college is the input.
There now, we use,
right.
Yeah, college and subject.
Okay.
For which college and for which subject you want.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So I have provided the college name and the subject name, right? Now the bot is supposed to store the PDF files, right? In the user machine. But to store the files in the user machine, we have to tell UiPath, right? What is the path you have to save? It is D::data, C::data, C::my document. So a different user will have different folder structure, right? So how would your bot store this data in that user machine? The PDF files.
This project is our internal project. So we run this bot on a specific system. So every time it saves the file in a specific folder.
And what is that specific for? Where is that specific folder coming from? So you have
that folder. This folder is in our project folder.
Okay, so that is in your project folder, and that means you have hard coded the path, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that is one thing. Now, when you say, okay, so you have got it, you have stored everything in the folder. Now, let's say someday what might happen, the user, since the user is inputting the college name, right? So let's say the user was supposed to put the college name as technology college. Instead of technology college, he misspelled the technology and he entered the wrong college name. So how would your bot respond to such scenarios?
So to handle this problem, I pass the array in input dialog box. So there, when the bot runs, there will be a drop in input dialog box. There will be a drop down list. So user have to select one of the column. Yeah.
Okay, so user have to select one of the projects. So perfect, right? So this is a correct approach. So you have provided the values in the drop down and user select, he submits the request, right? That way, no chances of exception.
Yes.
But now sometime what might happen, the portal which you are getting the data, okay, you get 0 records from the portal. There is no record at all. Okay. Now, how did you validate whether you are getting some data or not? Let's say you provided the college input from the drop down. You clicked on the submit button and there is nothing appearing on the screen. It says 0 record found. So have you thought and handle of this kind of scenario, or have you, encountered such kind of scenarios in automation?
No, I did not handle.
Okay. So now this you have done, you have scraped the data. Now when you say you are reading the PDF and that is a native PDF, which activity in UiPath I use to read the PDF?
I use read PDF, PDF file activity.
And what is the output of read PDF file?
Output is string.
Okay, so you just read everything and you get the data in the form of a string. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So we have downloaded the data, we have read everything, we have got in download the data. And now one thing, so I can see there are multiple, transactions getting involved. So is this built in some kind of framework, or is it just directly coded like a flowchart or a sequence?
I coded it in a flowchart.
Okay, and when you say you have coded in a flow chart, so that means you would have to explicitly do the exception handling, right? Because
Yes.
if we use the RE framework, their exception handling comes and all. Since you are advanced certified, I hope you understand the concept of RE frameworks. So what kind of exception handling you have done in your flow chart?
I have a huge retry scope if a page is not loaded properly.
Okay.
And I have used try catch.
Can you tell me what are the different kinds of exceptions you have handled? Different types of exceptions. So I understand you have used the try catch block, you have used the retry scope. That is to do the exception handling. But what are the different kinds of exception you might have encountered or you would have handled in the project?
Like selector not found exception and file not found exception.
Okay, so
if
you
like
have,
page is not loaded, it will throw a selector not found exception. So I handle these all exceptions.
Okay, and what happens if someday something unexpected comes? Okay, such say null reference exception. So you have handled selector not found, you have handled page not found, but someday, let's say null reference exception happens, or let's say I'm just giving hypothetical scenarios that divide by 0 exception occurs. Now what will happen to your robot? Because you have handled.
So in that case, the system exception is a default exception that handle all such kinds of exception.
Okay, and that will take care of it because this is the parent. Okay. Nice. Okay. So we have downloaded data and then everything done. Now how, so I see that you have to now connect this robot to the SQL, right? What are the dependencies I need to add to my UiPath to connect it to any sort of database?
So for connecting a UiPath to SQL, we must download the managed package of database.activities.
Okay.
So we download that managed package, then we get
what is that? What is that managed package? What is that package which we have to use?
Database dot activities.
Okay, UiPath.database.activities. Okay, done. So we have added the dependency. Now we will got the activities in the left side. Now, which activity I will use to connect it to the SQL?
So first we will use connect activity.
Okay.
Where we need to select the SQL database. Then we have to pass the authentication. We can use window authentication, or we can pass the username and password for SQL connection.
And where are you getting this user and password?
So these credentials we get from SQL when we connect the database in SQL. Like when we click on connect button in SQL, we get a pop-up where we get username and password.
Okay, so we have to input the user ID and the password, right? So that would be something like admin and the password something, SA system admin and something, right? But so we have coded this thing in, so you have, provided this input directly in the connect activity of the UiPath, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we check test connection test and select the database, and then we get the output is database connection type.
Okay.
That we use for further activity like execute query, execute non-query activity, and at the end we use disconnect activity.
So now you have just told me two things. One is execute query and one is execute non-query. What is the difference between them?
Execute non-query, when we push any query that update data in database. In that case, we use execute query. And if we are just getting any data, like we are getting data, or we are just want to get number of count of a row, then in that case we use execute non-query.
Okay, got it. And so you have got the data, you have used the execute query, and now you have to simply do the validation. And when you say that you generate the report, what is this report? What kind of report is this? Is it an Excel report, email report, any kind of graph chart? What is this report?
I simply create a text file report.
Okay, so it simply will create a text file and it will tell that these are the, and how, so is that these are the things which are not matching, if I understand it correctly, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it will update the status match and not match.
Okay, so in the text file you will have status, something called match, not match, and everything. And are you sending this this attachment or the Word file or the notepad to the user, or how would the user know? So you are sending.
I send this through mail.
Okay. Now, when you have to send this to mail, where you will get the email ID of the user?
I use Outlook mail message activity.
Which activity will you use?
Outlook send mail message activity.
Okay, so send Outlook mail message, right? But the send Outlook mail message activity will ask you, tell me the email ID which you want to send, right? So where did you get the email ID from?
For getting email ID, I use Window Credential Manager. I store email ID in Window Credential and get from the Window Credential.
Okay, Window Credential, you will store that thing. Okay. Now, so you have stored in Window Credential. Now tell me, what are the challenges which you have faced in developing this automation?
Developing this automation.
What kind of challenges you have faced? So you would have faced some challenges, right, while developing the automation, or it went directly smooth in one go?
No, I get some challenges in for in selector, making selector and page is not loaded. So I handle them with a try scope and all.
Okay, got it. So I see you have done the automation certificate for the advanced developer also. So can you tell me how many states I can have in the robotics enterprise framework?
By default, there are 4 steps in RE framework. Init state and get transaction data state, process state, and end process state.
Okay, and in the init, then get transaction, and let's say I get a system exception in the init state. What happens to the process now?
If we get system exception, it will be indicate end process.
Okay, it will go to the end process, right? So RE framework is mostly, used and done with the help of queues and all. So can I use RE framework with any other data types? Let's say a data table or list of strings. So is it possible or not?
Yeah, it's possible. We can we need to change the transaction item data type. We can use data table. We can use mail message.
Okay, so you have used the transaction and the RE framework, right? So which activity in UiPath I use to upload the data to the queue? I want to add some items to the queue. Which activity I will use?
We can use add bulk queue item, or we can use add queue item. In add queue item, we will add queue item one by one, and if you want direct add data table to the queue, so we can use add bulk queue item.
And what is the difference between a add queue item and a add bulk item? Let's say I have a data table, okay, and data table is having 10 records, only 10 records, right? So now as a developer, I have both the options. I can either use the bulk upload also, or I can use the add data, whatever, add queue item also, right? Which activity will you use? Let's say you have both the options.
So see, if we are using add queue item, then we have to use a loop. Then one by one we will add data in queue. And add bulk item, we can directly push all the entire data table on the queue.
Okay,
so
so
it's a little fast in case if file is big size.
Okay, got it. So this is one thing. Okay, so I see that you have good experience on the Excel automations also. You have mentioned specifically that you have done Excel automation. So when I do Excel automation, I have two read range available, right? One is for the workbook and other is for the Excel application scope. What is the difference between them?
For using Excel application scope, like if we are using Excel read range, then we must have installed Microsoft Excel in our system.
Okay.
And if we are using workbook read range, in that case, there is no mandatory to have Excel application scope on system.
Okay. So it is not mandatory to have Excel. It will even work if the work is not one, right? And when you say you read range the Excel, what is the output of the read range?
Output of read range is data table.
Okay, that is a data table, and then you can iterate it. Okay. So now a project scenario I'm giving it to you. So I have an Excel. Okay. That Excel is having 1000 records. Okay. Simple Excel that is having 1000 records. It is having only two column. In the column 1 it is having class, in the column 2 it is having name. Okay, so the class have class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4, class 5, and in the name you have the name of the students like Ramesh, Shivam, Mukesh, Alok, Manas, like that. Okay, so you have all the names. So in first column you have the class name, that is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, and then there are certain students. Now in the class name you can have multiple classes because one class will have more than one students, right? So now there is one single sheet which is having the entire, let's say, school data. Now what you have to do is you have to create separate Excel sheet for each class. So class 1 separate Excel sheet, so class 1 students goes in one Excel sheet, class 2 student go in second, class 3 student goes in third, class 4 student goes in fourth. You got the problem statement? You want me to reframe?
got it.
Sorry, you got it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so how you will do? I don't want you to go to all the technical details, but tell me at a high level what you will do. So first you will read the Excel, right? And you have used the Excel application scope, you have read, now everything you have in the data table, right? So all those
Yes.
1000, 10,000 data you have in a data table. Now what next? What I
Okay.
will do next?
We can use filter data table for filtering class.
Okay, so I will use filter data table, but filter data table activity will ask you the class name, right? You will have to provide the class name. So sometime you have class name only for class 1, class 2. Sometime you would have class 1, class 2, class 3, class 10. So you cannot hard code it, right? You are getting my point, right? You cannot hard code in the
So
filter.
first we can do, we can copy the, first we will copy the Excel file, and then we will remove the duplicate rows on the condition of classes. Then we will get all the classes, class 1, class 2, class 3. Then in this
Hello, you there?
Create a scenario where we will match one.
Right.
We will get all the rows and create a new. For every class, we will create a new Excel file.
Okay, got it. So now some questions on the, this is done, got your point. Now some questions on the infrastructure and the development. So once you are done with the development of your project, right? So let's say we'll talk about the project which you're talking about. So as a developer, you would have completed the execution. Okay, you would have done the development, everything. What are the next stages you follow to move that process to the production?
Yes.
So what is the process of moving that project from Shubham's UiPath Studio to the production orchestrator? What is the process which you follow?
So frankly speaking, sir, I am working the project that are all in internal project. So we are we develop the on the user's machine itself, and after developing, the user start using this on their own machine.
Okay, got it. And let's say once you move that to the user machine, and now the user has encountering some issues, right? So how are you fixing the production defects? What approach do you use? So it will not work perfectly every time, right? As soon as you deploy to the user machine, it won't work perfectly every time, right? So what approach you use to debug the defects which you got?
So I check the log files for where the project is getting error, and then we fix it on the user's machine itself.
Okay, and you will fix it in the user machine. Okay, got it. So now this is good. Now I just want to ask you some questions on the selector part. Okay, so whenever we talk about selector, we have a common property which all the selector is having, which is called continue on error. Have you seen this property?
Yes.
What is this property? So this is a checkbox, true and false. What exactly this property do?
So if we are suppose we are using any typing tool and we check the continue on error checkbox. In that case, if in this activity any error occur, then the bot will not stop on that activity. It will go to the next activity. And if we are not checking continue on error activity, then the bot will stop there.
Okay, so the bot will stop and it will not go to the further, right? So
Next, yeah.
my last question, Shubham, to you would be, as a developer, whenever we are doing the development, right? So there is something which is called debugging. So your automation never works sometime, every time perfectly, right? What are the steps
Yeah.
or what is the approach that you follow to debug the code in your automation? Or what tools do you use? How do you do the debugging?
So in debug panel, there are multiple options available.
Okay.
When we debug up, we can use breakpoint in debug, and we can use highlighted or step in, step out for debugging the file.
Okay, so step in, step out, all of these things which you can do, and you can get the data off from the files. Okay.
Yeah.
I am done with my set of questions, Subham. Before I get into your feedback, do you have any questions for me?
No, sir.
Okay. So thank you for attending this, Shubham. So I'll tell you some of your feedbacks. Okay. So what I have questions and thing which you have answered me incorrectly, right? So you told me about the project where you are storing that college input and subject, and that you are storing into in some path, right? And that path you have hard coded, correct? That is what you told me, right? So
Yes.
we never hard code the path, right? So a good solution would be either we ask the user for a path, like the way we are asking the user that where you want, which college you want to select, he is selecting the drop down. Similarly, in case of attended automation, we will not hard code anything. We will simply tell the user that you go and select the folder from the machine where you want to store. So that way you will always be sure. Okay. So we never hard code anything. Next question, in case of zero file exception, right? So you told me that you have done the business exception, selector not, sorry, you told me that you have done the selector not found, page not found exception. So when we talk about any process, if I categorize it widely, there is two set of exception. One is called business exception and another is called the system exception. Okay. So whenever you deal with such automation, you have to clearly define the business and the system exception. So if you are using RE framework take care of the business exception, system exception separately, right? But when you say that you have developed this process on your flowchart, you should have a clear mechanism. Let's say whenever there is a system exception, I will go and end the process or I will restart the process. Whenever there is a system exception, I will send an email to the business, right? Similarly, the way you are sending a report, right, at the end, same way you can send a business exception. Now on this part, I have asked you where you get the email. So do you get the email from Windows Credential? Are you sure?
No, sir.
Right, so Windows Credential will give you a user ID and the password, correct? It won't give you the email ID. So a solution would be, at the beginning of the automation, you ask the user for the email ID. That's it. Plain thing, right? Simple thing. If you ask for the user that what is your email ID, the user will provide the email ID. You will try to send that email. If the email is not getting to the user or it is having some exception, you will simply do one thing. You will just save that attachment or the error in some folder in some user, and then you drop that message in the attended robot, because it is an attended robot, so user would be seeing it. Okay. Now for the credential, SQL credential or any sort of credential, we do not hard code those things in the robot. We will always use the asset. Okay. Now which kind of asset I will use, can you tell me?
Can you
Credential asset.
credential asset?
Right. So if I would have asked you that, Shubham, tell me which asset I use to store user ID in the password, you would have directly told me that, sir, I will use the credential. But when I asked you a question little bit in differently, so you told me that you have hard coded. So that is not correct. Okay. Now, some of the things which you answered me correctly were continue on error. That was perfectly answered. You told me about the array input dialog. So this is the answer, and this is one of the correct approach that you can follow, that you can get the drop down read file. You were able to tell me that it gives you the string, so no problem here. You correctly answered me the difference between the Excel read range and the workbook read range. That was also good. Execute query, execute non-query, that was also perfectly answers. No question here. RE framework transactions clearly answered, right? But when I went to RE framework, I asked you one question, that was bulk queue and the add queue. Okay. So if I talk about the difference, bulk queue does not have the unique reference. Okay. And add queue item has something which is called the unique reference. Okay. So that is the primary. So you are one partially you are correct that it goes and it will be faster and all those things. But the primary difference is that one is having a unique reference and one is not having the unique reference. Okay. So when you go back, I want you to read about the questions which I am telling you to read. Okay. Now, this question was not at all means I didn't feel good about this question when I asked you how do you move the process from development to the testing or to the production, right? So you cannot say that this is an internal process, or right? Even if it is an internal process, you should follow some kind of mechanism, right? Or you should have some kind of thing, right? You just can't go and do it in a user machine. Now I'll tell you the challenges here. If you are deploying this automation to the user machine, and if the automation breaks in the user machine, you cannot go and directly fix in the user machine. Otherwise the user will keep sitting idle, right? He will just wait for you to deploy and then he will wait. Now, as of now, you might have only one user, but think of a scenario. Tomorrow you grow your user base from 1 to 10. Now, what will you do? Will you go to each and every developer 10 times, machine 10 times, and then fix the automation? Do you think is that the correct approach?
No, sir.
No, right? So that is where you have to understand. So you might not have done it directly on your project, but at least you can see and you can read about the things that how it happens typically, and then you can same implement in your process also, right? So I have a video in my channel where I am explaining this same thing to a candidate like you, that how we move a process from one environment to another, what are the kind of documents, what are the different teams involved. I'll put that link in the for you. I will share that link and then you can refer that. Okay. This was done. This was execute query. The credential are not hard coded. Bulk queue items done. Okay. So this SQL authentication part, the activities, you have answered me very precisely. It was a very good impression when you exactly told me that what are the activities you are using, what package you are using, what activity, what is the thing. So you have explained it correctly. But when I gave you the real-time Excel scenario, okay, I give you a simple real-time Excel scenario that you have to get the distinct and then paste, right? So rather copying the data into the new sheet, I can always use a link queue activity, or I can use the filter data table activity, or any of the approaches. But this approach of copying the sheet, this might work, but this is not the correct solution. So once you have every data and everything in a data table, we are not going back to the Excel. Okay. I have the entire data set in the UiPath. So I can simply write a link queue. I can write some data table manipulation, and I will get all the distinct items of the class from the data table. Okay. Once you have all the data in the UiPath, this is not a good approach to go back to Excel, read the distinct and then come back. It will work, but that is not efficient. Okay. So for this also, recently I have done one webinar. So I was explaining this scenario. So that is from where I asked you. So I will share this, and within 5-10 minutes you will be able to get the solution for this one. Okay. So this you have answered me correctly, and yes, apart from this, you answered me all the question correctly. So these are the some things that you need to improve on. Okay. Okay, so that is it.
Okay, so that is all for this video.
I would like to wrap this video here. I hope you got some insights from the mock interview which we have taken from the Shubham, and you were able to maximum of the questions. In case you have any more questions, any more doubts, you can always drop me a note on the email ID which is available in the description, or you can simply use the comment box. We can always have a mock interview with yourself as well. All you have to do is just drop me a note. So with this, I would like to wrap this video here. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please do subscribe to the channel, and happy automation.